James Cagney was one of Hollywood's most legendary tough guys, but off-screen, he had his own list of enemies. We remember him as the snarling gangster, the fast-talking dynamo who lit up the silver screen with an energy that felt dangerous, real. But behind that electrifying persona was a man of fierce principles, a man who didn't suffer fools, and a man who collected grievances like other stars collected Oscars. The glamour of the studio system was a meticulously crafted illusion, and behind the velvet curtain, egos clashed like titans in a forgotten war. Today, we're pulling back that curtain to reveal the raw, unfiltered truth. We're counting down the top 5 figures in Hollywood that James Cagney reportedly hated the most. These stories are a cocktail of bruised egos, broken friendships, and bitter power struggles that could rival any gangster film he ever made. At number 5, we have the man who would become the epitome of cynical cool, Humphrey Bogart. On the surface, they were two sides of the same Warner Brothers coin, both masters of the gangster genre. But their energies were fundamentally different. Cagney was a firecracker, a kinetic explosion of street-smart bravado. Bogart was a smoldering cigarette, his danger lurking beneath a world-weary exterior. Their paths crossed most famously in films like The Roaring Twenties and Angels with Dirty Faces. In these pictures, Bogart was often cast as the heavy, the secondary villain to Cagney's more complex anti-hero. Imagine the sting. This dynamic bred a professional resentment that was palpable on set. It was a feud of silent judgment and professional distance. Coming in at number 4 is an actor who built his entire career on a persona Cagney found utterly contemptible: George Raft. If Cagney's gangster was a raw, explosive force of nature, Raft's was a carefully constructed artifice. He was the smooth operator, the coin-flipping tough guy whose danger felt rehearsed. And for Cagney, a man who valued authenticity above all else, Raft's performance wasn't just acting, it was a fraud. The rivalry was fueled by their constant competition for the same roles. Both were Warner Brothers' go-to guys for hard-hitting crime dramas. There's a famous story from the set of Each Dawn I Die that perfectly encapsulates their dynamic. The script called for Cagney to get the upper hand on Raft in a prison riot scene. Raft, ever protective of his tough guy image, refused to be manhandled. The confrontation escalated until Cagney reportedly told Raft that if he wanted to see how someone could get the drop on him, they could step outside and find out for real. At number 3, we find the most complicated and in many ways the most tragic feud on our list. This wasn't an enemy in the traditional sense, but a brother in arms, a confidant, and a constant screen partner, Pat O'Brien. They made 9 films together, and honestly, their on-screen chemistry as the fast-talking kid and the world-weary priest or cop was just legendary. They were part of the Irish Mafia at Warner Brothers, a close-knit group of actors. Off-screen, they were basically inseparable, their families were close, and O'Brien was one of the few people Cagney truly trusted. The core of their conflict was a simmering professional jealousy, mostly on O'Brien's side. While they often received equal billing, there was no question who the bigger star was. Cagney was the phenomenon, the Oscar winner, the actor who could carry a picture on his own. O'Brien was the quintessential supporting man, but always in Cagney's shadow. Their arguments were legendary among their friends, often erupting over seemingly trivial matters, but always rooted in this deeper imbalance. Our runner-up for Cagney's most hated figure is a true heavyweight of the gangster genre, a man whose shadow loomed large long before Cagney ever stepped in front of a camera: Edward G. Robinson. If Bogart was the reluctant rival and Raft the imitation, Robinson was the original article, the OG. His performance as Rico Bandello in 1931's Little Caesar essentially created the blueprint for the cinematic gangster. And when Cagney burst onto the scene with the Public Enemy that same year, it wasn't a collaboration, it was a declaration of war. The feud between Cagney and Robinson was one of pure, uncut professional jealousy and clashing egos. Robinson was the established king, and Cagney was the scrappy, energetic upstart. Their rivalry played out across the Warner Brothers lot. They were the studio's 2 biggest male stars, constantly vying for the best scripts, the top billing, and the biggest paycheck. When Cagney won his Oscar for Yankee Doodle Dandy, it was a triumph that Robinson, for all his iconic roles, would never achieve in a competitive category. We've seen rivals, frenemies, and imitators. But at number 1, we have the man who is James Cagney's true arch-nemesis, the primary antagonist in the epic drama of his career. This wasn't another actor vying for the spotlight. This was the man who owned the spotlight, the soundstage, and he believed the actors themselves. The person James Cagney hated most was Jack L. Warner. Their relationship was a 30-year war, a series of brutal battles fought over contracts, money, and basic human dignity. Jack Warner saw actors not as artists, but as property. Cagney, the son of a bartender from a tough neighborhood, was having none of it. He was one of the first actors to systematically fight the studio system, and Jack Warner was the system personified. Cagney would walk out on his contract time and time again. His first walkout was in 1932. He simply went back to his farm and waited. It was a battle of wills, and Cagney won. During one contract dispute, Warner's studio planted stories in the press, insinuating that Cagney had communist sympathies. Cagney had to personally go to Washington to clear his name. Cagney even sued Warner for breach of contract in 1935, a landmark case that he won. This victory sent shockwaves through Hollywood and empowered other stars to fight their own battles. Cagney knew his value. He knew that audiences lined up to see him, not the Warner Brothers logo. Jack Warner may have signed the checks, but James Cagney owned the screen. Hollywood legends aren't just made on the screen. Their real stories are even more dramatic. James Cagney's career was a masterclass in performance, but his life was a testament to the fight. The tough guy persona wasn't just an act. It was a shield he used to battle the titans of his time, from insecure co-stars to the most powerful moguls in the business. These rivalries weren't just petty squabbles. They were the defining conflicts of an era. The stories remind us that behind every icon is a human being with all the complexities, flaws, and resentments that come with it. Which feud surprised you the most? Was it the brotherly war with Pat O'Brien or the epic clash with studio head Jack Warner? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories.